Well, welcome. This is my first attempt and foray into podcasting, so we'll see how this works out. And I'll try uploading this to a YouTube channel and see if anyone is even interested. So, this is the Grumpy Gardener. As you can see, I'm grumpy and I'm the gardener. And what I'd like to do for the next few weeks is kind of share with you my experience and my foray into gardening and kind of share some of the experiences I've had. So to be perfectly honest, I'm a little bit self-conscious about this. I've done videos before for education and for other types of things, but doing something like this and then putting it up on the internet for everyone to view, that's a little bit outside my comfort zone. But I've been doing gardening for about 6 or 7 years now, and kind of grew up with a gardener. My father showed me a little bit about gardening, but kind of kept me out of it, so never really got to experience it like I wanted to. And then about 6 or 7 years ago, a friend started gardening, and I kind of ran with it. So at my last house, I built a few garden boxes, but they were kind of novice efforts. They weren't really that great. They were mediocre at best, but we were able to get some tomatoes out of it and some beets and some other vegetables, so it was pretty good. But what I'd like to do today is really quickly just show you what I've done in the last 6 years. Well, really only 3, because I didn't really even make this garden until about 3 years ago, and I really only wanted to make 1 garden box, but I ended up making 8. And since then I've also made a couple more and a compost, which you can see behind me. And what I'd like to do is just kind of quickly go through and show you everything that I have and kind of how I came about, and over the next few weeks share with you some of my experiences and some of my knowledge about the different plants that I have growing and how to take care of them, and what works best and what works best for my climate. So just to give you a quick summarization, I live here in South Jordan, Utah, and it's 98 degrees today, so that's why I'm kind of sitting in the shade of my tomatoes here. But it's actually cooling off a little bit. It's towards evening. But so this is the first garden box I built. Let me just give you a quick summarization of what I did. I built it using 2x8 pressure treated wood, and for each garden box there are 3 2x8s that are each 8 foot long on either side, and then I purchased another 6 2x8s, and then I made those for the ends. So this is the most southwest corner of my garden, and this is the first box I ever made. In the past, the past 2 years I've grown tomatoes in this, but this time I'm trying to do pumpkins, and I have a couple extra tomatoes, so I thought I'd throw those in there as well. Not exactly certain which tomatoes these are. I just got some picked some up at the garden place, and they're really good. If you're familiar with Glover's Nursery in South Jordan, Utah, great place. They always have an excellent selection of pretty much any type of heirloom tomato you might be interested in. So here I have another tomato plant growing, and you might notice there's a very, very small one. And for the middle of July, it's kind of funny to be having a very small one, but what happened is the tomato plant I had growing there died. It just didn't quite make it. Either it was the heat or the cold, or something happened to it. So I found a few other little tomatoes growing around in the other garden boxes from previous years. So I decided to transplant it over here, and hopefully something will work out with that. I've done that in the past and ended up having bumper crops. I'm suspecting this is probably a sun gold tomato plant, because I had literally hundreds strewn all over the gravel here in my garden this summer, so tried to clean those up. As you can see, these are just my onions. The heat has just taken its toll on them, and even though I've tried to keep them really moist, they're having a hard time. But they're coming along. They're growing quite well. I just need to give them some more water. Here we have a nice selection of heirloom tomatoes. I can tell you briefly what each one is. This is a Mr. Stripey directly in front of me. This is probably a sun gold right there. Again, this was a tomato plant that didn't quite make it, and so I transplanted one that was making it elsewhere, and brought it in here. And as you can see, right over there, we got another little tomato plant growing right there. So depending upon how it fares and how the other tomatoes fare, we'll see how it works out. This right here is a pineapple tomato. This is one of my favorite heirlooms, and in the past we've always had really large tomatoes from it, and they've been perfect for making sandwiches. This one right here is a yellow pear, and already, as you can see, there's lots of little pears growing all over. So it's about ready to ripen and about ready to yield something here quite soon. So just kind of going around, giving you another perspective, looking southwards now. These are the first 2 garden boxes I built, and it worked out pretty well, and I filled them up. But I liked it so much and I enjoyed building them so much, I decided to build a whole bunch more. We'll talk about those. So, heading back over here, this is a green zebra. I have a couple green zebras coming along here. There you go. You can see it right there. And there's also another large one right hidden back behind there. Maybe I can get it focused. There we go. So those are coming along. It's not quite as big as I'd like it to be, but you know, I just keep watering them and hope for the best. This one right here is also another pineapple. I got, I think, 2 or 3 pineapples because I liked them so much. And then here I have another pineapple right next to it. They're both about the same height, but this one right here is probably my largest so far. It stands probably 4.5 feet tall. So the garden beds stand at about 22 inches in height. And so coming off that, let's say 20 inches up, it's probably a good 3.5 feet tall already. So it's taller than I am, which isn't saying much. But anyway, they're coming along. The problem with the tomatoes right now is that it's over 90 degrees, and over 90 degrees, the blossoms don't tend to germinate very well. So it takes a little bit of time. This is one of my few hybrid tomatoes that I have. This is a big boy, and my wife and I have both decided that we really like the heirlooms better than any of the others. This is a Brandywine, which has been pretty good for me in the past. And this one right here is, check. This is a red pear. So notice I do try to keep the little tags in place so I could always check on them, but with the hot weather it tends to crack and they tend to age very quickly. And this last one right over here is also Brandywine, but it's a pink Brandywine. Now I want to point out, if you look real closely, you'll see that there's a lot of the buds that would normally have flowers on them. The flowers just did not make it. That's because of the heat, and they just kind of shriveled up and died. And one thing I like to do is go through and pick out all the little suckers and make certain that they're all that they're out of there. Now this is a, see if I can get in there, it's a Chef's Choice Black. It's a beefsteak tomato. I believe this is also one of my hybrids. And this one right here, if I can reach the tag, is a beefsteak tomato. It's a Chef's Choice bicolor. So I'm anxious to see how these turn out. Every year I like to try and get something different and try to change it up a little bit. And then these last ones, this is a San Marzano, which they're a cherry tomato variety, and they're really good for making salsa and also for making tomato sauce. And this little guy here, I can't remember what he is, but he was over in my other garden box right here. He was with all the peppers. So real quickly, I want to talk about these. So these 2 tallest ones, actually the 3 tallest ones, this one, and this one right here, are all Anaheim chili peppers. That one right there is a habanero. And this one, because they were selling them for so cheap, is a ghost pepper, as is that one, and that one. Now you'll notice that they're not doing so hot, and I've tried several different things to take care of them, and it's been kind of an interesting experience because they haven't really liked anything I've done. I think a mixture of the bugs, the heat, the soil perhaps, the water, all of those factors have to kind of come together and so that they can work their magic. But they're doing better now. I've tried something different and tried watering them a little bit more, and we'll see how they turn out. And I have a few onions as well. Now over here, just really quick, I have my carrots. In the past I've done some purple carrots, but this year I'm doing just some regular carrots. So 2 rows of those, and then just 2 rows of good old beets. And they're getting really close to harvesting. If you can look down inside here, you'll see that some of these guys are already getting pretty big. And in fact, I don't like having them that close, but sometimes you just have to do what you can. These are my raspberries. I have black, red, and golden. These are my strawberries. They did really well this year, better than in the past, but they're also needing a little bit of help. And then finally, my last 2 garden boxes. These are the last 2 I did about 2 years ago, and I used them mostly for composting, but then I changed it up and I filled them up with mulch this year and started planting a few things. So this first item in this box is a watermelon, which is coming along quite nicely. It has a lot of little watermelons on it. And this guy right here is a zucchini, as you can tell. In fact, there's quite a couple big zucchinis. We've already harvested 2, 3 zucchinis and grilled those up. This is a beech nut squash. So it's still moving along. It hasn't quite fully matured yet, but it has a few blossoms coming on. And then finally I have my spaghetti squash, and I have 4 right there. So everything seems to be doing okay. Some things better than others, but we'll see how it goes. And then finally, this is my compost, and as you can see, I have a a milk jug in there. I use the milk jug to collect all the extra bark pieces that are floating around in the mulch within the garden boxes, and then I dump them in here to kind of offset all the green from the grass. So I put my grass trimmings in there, and then I put my bark in there and try to mix it up and get things going. But as you can see already on the bottom, it's starting to turn into some really good black loamy soil, which I'll be harvesting here probably in about a month, and then using it to fill up the beds. So that's about it. Quick tour of what I have, and what I'd like to do in the next few weeks is again talk about all the different things that how I've gotten here, why I've planted what I've planted. Also talk about how I made the garden boxes, and then give you a tour of the fruit trees that I have back there. We'll talk about pruning, we'll talk about care and nurturing of tomato plants, also how to prune things back, how to thin things out, just a lot of different basic things that, in case you didn't have a father who showed you these things, or in case you did but didn't take the time to show you how to do the different things, this is what I'm here for. So again, thank you for watching. This is the Grumpy Gardener. I'll see you next time.